Welcome to the Personal Tanya, day 26, where we're taking on the final part of chapter 12 with game-changing inspirations from the Daily Tanya, the foundational text of Chabad philosophy, in about 5 minutes or so. Today's Hebrew date is the 17th day of Teves. I'm very excited to share with you about today's Tanya, which brings up two major ideas. The first one is about how to handle your emotions, how to stay in control of your emotions when they're messing with you. You see, one of the novel ideas that we learn in today's Tanya is that God created the world in such a way that just like light overcomes darkness naturally, so too maturity will overcome immaturity naturally. And integrity will overcome short-term pleasure naturally. The godly soul will always overcome the animal soul, because the godly soul is based in wisdom and the animal soul is based in instinctive emotion. Thus, we're able to reach the level of the Beinoni to maintain our struggle of the godly soul over the animal soul, as is the Beinoni, the struggling Jew. The caveat is that light, the presence of light, doesn't actually vanquish the darkness. It only keeps the darkness at bay, but the darkness returns as soon as the light recedes. Hence, the natural dominance of the godly soul over the animal soul, but that's only for practical purposes only. It doesn't actually vanquish the animal soul, because the moment that the godly soul recedes, the animal soul roars back all over again. Now, when we apply this to our personal lives, we realize that we are made up of conflicting emotions and triggers. Now, these triggers and emotions are born out of early childhood experiences, born out of abuses and traumas that we might have endured or been exposed to. These emotions and triggers urge us to act in ways that are often irrational and say things that we will soon regret. But today's Tanya inspires us to declare that we are not beholden to those emotions and triggers, which are often called parts, protectors, exiles, in modern therapy called IFS, internal family systems. We can overcome these parts, these emotions, these triggers, by shining the light of maturity over them. The godly soul's maturity will always dominate and keep at bay the instincts and emotions and triggers of the animal soul. In IFS, internal family systems therapy, it's called staying in the self. It's connecting with our core truth, never allowing ourselves to be hijacked by our parts. If we go back to the light metaphor one more time, as the light handles the darkness, if you imagine you looked at your parts, at your emotions, at your triggers, at your jealousies, your envies, imagine you looked at them like parents handle their kids. Parents show respect to their kids, but they do not let them control them. If parents allow kids to control them, that is a dysfunctional family. So parents show respect to their kids. They listen to them. They give them hugs and kisses. But at the end of the day, the parent is naturally dominant over them. And that is how we are supposed to relate to our triggers and emotions, to stay fully centered and never allow ourselves to fall, to fail through our emotions and triggers. Now, how do we stay in the zone all day? Tanya tells us today that it's meditation that does the trick, because meditation shines the consciousness, the awareness of the godly soul upon us. When we meditate, we're fully in the zone, and the light is banishing the darkness. The problem is when we stop meditating, the light goes away, the darkness returns. But the novelty of today's Tanya is that the Alter Rebbe tells us is that the morning meditation lingers all day and is easily accessed throughout the day. At any moment, you can easily access your morning meditation of this idea by just reflecting on it, then you go straight back into it. The catch is that tomorrow you'll need to meditate on this truth all over again. You'll need to meditate on the idea that light dominates over darkness, that maturity controls immaturity, that integrity controls short-term pleasures, and the godly soul is able to dominate over the animal soul. And therefore, yourself, your core, your truth is able to dominate over your emotions and your triggers, your abuses and your traumas. A second big idea that comes up in today's Tanya is that you can control your thoughts. Thoughts are pushed out with two hands is the analogy that Alter Rebbe uses. Now, if you catch yourself, if you just have a thought that rises up, that's not a sin. But it's the moment that you catch yourself having the thought that you realize that you're having a thought that you shouldn't be thinking. Now the question is, do you continue or do you divert, change the CD to think a different thought? Remember, you can only be thinking one thought at a time. Very important is that not only will you not be thinking about the next thought, but you certainly will make sure not to dwell on that thought, to turn it into a meditation, because the moment that you dwell on that thought and you meditate on it, then meditation, like we learned earlier in Tanya, will become a full-blown emotion. Be careful not to dwell on that thought. Just change the CD. Think about a different thought. You can only think about one at a time, and certainly protect that thought from becoming words, because speech is more powerful than you can imagine, as we'll learn later in Tanya. In conclusion, what today's Tanya teaches us is how to deal with toxic emotions. Today's Tanya teaches us that you're not a slave to your emotions. And if you practice this brilliant metaphor of light, keeping the darkness at bay, you will be able to keep your triggers, your emotions, and your toxic emotions at bay. Hear them out, hug them and kiss them like a parent would kiss a kid, and say, thank you for being there for me, but then you dismiss them. Because it's the self, it's your true core, it's your godly soul that makes the ultimate decision. Don't be impulsive. That's a wrap. Let's try to apply. You can do this.